back to Thursday's Loose Women. If you want to relive some of our personal highlights, including last week's adventure when Carol literally went commando, then have a look at the photo gallery at itv.com/loosewomen. But now, earlier this week, we told you we were going to discuss news that surfaced regarding Nottinghamshire's police force's apparent use of a taser stun gun on a suspect. Now, unfortunately, we ran out of time, but the story has gathered momentum, and today, Strathclyde Chief Constable Stephen House has called for the controversial weapon to be used more widely. He hopes to issue the 50,000-volt weapons to his force, insisting that with more than 4,000 of his officers assaulted every year, it's time to give them better protection. But in light of what we've seen recently, would you like to see more tasers on the streets?
No, I wouldn't, actually. I've got nothing against the police protecting themselves, however they do that. But I just think, in fact, Jackie Smith tried this last year. She had this proposal where she's going to issue 10,000 taser guns to the Met, and the Metropolitan Police Authority just chucked it out and said, no, we don't want them. And I think that's right, because I don't like the idea of being scared of the police. And, you know, the thing is, the police force is full of really, you know, decent people who really want to, you know, be able to uphold the law and, you know, improve the lives of people. But there are some that don't, and you know, it can be open to abuse, and we have seen examples of that already. And I just think having those sorts of weapons, whether it be guns or whatever, even taser guns, does make it a kind of us and them situation, and I think it perpetuates that kind of, you know, people are not scared particularly of the police because they don't fear the law.
When you
the
say
law
us
isn't upheld properly in this
country. Do you mean good guys and bad guys, or do you mean us, the general public, against the police?
No, I do think, you know, things have happened lately that have caused people to be quite suspicious of the police and the way they behave towards the public. And I don't think the fact that they might all be armed with these guns helps that. I just think it does create a kind of, you know, when I see a policeman now, I don't feel like reassured or safe. I feel quite scared. And because of what I know that has happened. And, you know, please don't get me wrong. I know there are genuine, decent police people out there who want to do the job and want to uphold the law. But as I was saying, the problem is people don't fear the law anymore. Those criminals, they know that nothing is going to happen to them. And so the police are, you know, they're in between a rock and a hard place. They don't really know what they can do. They're trying to uphold the law, but they can't do it.
The only thing is that I am sick to death of people like my mother and people I know being terrified of the streets that we all now live in. I am frightened, you know, for her. I'm frightened for people. Now, they do right, they do wrong. You're right. But the thing is, you know, like Keeley, if she's out at night and there are a police force out there, rather than them having guns on them, which we all know has gone wrong as well, surely that something like a taser... I mean, I have been with a police force and I've seen them use the tasers in different situations on themselves, I mean, not on the public.
As part of their training?
Yes,
you know,
and
so
I've watched it happen, and they explained to me what happens. Now, absolutely, it would be right. Now, out in the wrong hands, of course it would be wrong, but you could say that about anything. I think we're all in a situation now where we need our streets cleaned up. We need to be less fearful. We need to be able to go out there and know that our mothers are safe, our grandmothers are safe, my daughter's safe. And it terrifies me now that we haven't got that anymore. You know, you say that we used to be frightened of policemen. We used to think they were...
No, we didn't. They used to make us feel safe.
No, but you know what I mean? They were the arm of the law, so they were somebody to look up to, and now we don't feel that anymore. But that's because the world has changed. The whole street mob. I mean,
that's so sad, though, isn't it? It's really, really sad.
But what do we do? I was somewhere last night, and I saw 3 boys throwing bricks at a car as it went by. The guy stopped, and I thought, please, God, he doesn't get out. He got out. 3 more boys came round the corner. And I thought, get back in your car. Now, what world is that we're living in?
Well, that's why I think we do need these tasers. I have to say I can see why this Strathclyde Chief Constable will want his men and women to use these very strong deterrent instruments. Because the great thing about tasers, it seems to me, is that you can keep the criminal at arm's length. You don't actually have to come into contact with them. And the knife crime figures alone are just going astronomically high. And I can see why that would be a really useful instrument, because, I mean, pepper spray, for instance, or guns, or even the batons, you know, you have to get up close to use those. And also, in a sense, they're more damaging to the criminal. Pepper spray is a really nasty stuff. But it seems to me that with all of these things, but particularly with the tasers, it's the training that's going to count. It's how you use them, it's the context in which you use them, it's how many times you use them, and that's what worries me about this. They talk about only having 18 hours of training.
At the moment, though, in terms of, you know, it's the Strathclyde Chief Constable that we've been talking about. In Strathclyde itself, it's only trained firearmed officers that can actually use the taser, so I think it's going to be fairly stringent.
But he wants them all to use
them,
doesn't he?
In terms of, you know, I mentioned at the top of this that we were going to mention this a couple of days ago. Now, lots of you, obviously, we asked for your comments. Lots of you have been emailing in. Anna 1800, this is on our forum, on our Loose Women forum, says, I don't agree with the police force having taser guns. I believe we should be broadcasting a positive image of the police, involving them in the community and bringing back the respect they deserve. And that's something you spoke about, Carol. Arming them may cause even more resentment. As a country, we're trying to get rid of this violent nature. Arming the police force with such an unpleasant weapon, I believe, is a step in the wrong direction. So she disagrees.
Well, Audrey Jones here on the forum says the opposite to that. She says, yes, I don't want to be controversial, but I do think it's a good idea for all police to have taser guns in this day of violence and drunkenness and people carrying knives and even guns, as we were saying. I think it's far better than to arm our police with guns. It disables the criminal without killing him, and it gives the police some defence against the violent criminal. I really don't think our police should be defenceless against today's violent society.
OK, now we really value your input on the show, so join in today's chat. Get yourself online. You can have your say on our website, itv.com/loosewomen. We always want to hear what you've got to say.